So talking about players that will be traded in the 24 NHL offseason still. Number one, Martin Necas. I think there's so many different teams that are going to be in on Necas, from the Winnipeg Jets, from the St. Louis Blues, to the Montreal Canadiens, to the Anaheim Ducks. I think there's a lot of teams that have a fit where I think Carolina's perspective, they need to bring in a younger or roster-ready player back. So if I'm specifically Carolina, I'm looking at Winnipeg because I see Rutger McGroarty there. I see Nikolaj Ehlers, and that goes to number 4 on my list there. Wouldn't that make a lot of sense for between Necas, Laine, and Ehlers? I just think that makes too much sense, guys. It does make too much sense that one of or two of those players are involved in a big deal. John Gibson with the Anaheim Ducks. There was rumors that the Red Wings were going to go after John Gibson. The Red Wings and Ducks just made a trade, so you would think that they're not going to make a separate one that involves John Gibson and Ville Husso, but I thought that one made a lot of sense. So if they were going to look into a different direction, it'd be something similar like that. It would be looking at another team that has a goalie on a weird contract, or a goalie that maybe they're not overly confident in. And that's why some people suggested Columbus. But it looks like Don Waddell and the Blue Jackets are confident in keeping Elvis Merzlikins. But that was another example of like, okay, maybe Anaheim gives Merzlikins a chance, and Columbus gets more of a proven goalie in John Gibson, who, has shown struggles in recent years, but that's also on a really bad Anaheim Ducks team. He hasn't seen much success in Anaheim. Poor John Gibson with the Ducks. And with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think Calle Jarnkrok, David Kampf, Timothy Liljegren, Nick Robertson, there are 4 guys on Toronto that, with those 4 guys I just listed, I think at least 2 of those guys get traded. I think Calle Jarnkrok is just that example because I think David Kampf, $2.4 million cap hit, he's a bit more expensive, where Jarnkrok, less of a cap hit, right winger, proven 20-goal scorer. I think a lot of teams could use that value. And I just showed you guys all of my best free agents available. Are there many Calle Jarnkroks available? I would say that the best comparison to a Calle Jarnkrok right now in the open market is a Daniel Sprong. I would say Sprong's a bit more of an upgrade in terms of his style of play. I think Jarnkrok has maybe a better, I don't even want to say better shot, but I think Jarnkrok's found his way to score in different areas and has found himself in better situations like power play time. Like Toronto was utilizing him on the top power play at times, where Daniel Sprong, I feel like, has never really been that. He's been like a 3rd, 4th line guy and still finds ways to score 10, 15, pushing 20 goals. So I like the Daniel Sprong availability in free agency. I would say he's probably the best valued free agent left in the class after Tarasenko signs with the Red Wings. But yeah, Jarnkrok, Kampf, Liljegren, Robertson, definitely guys that could be traded. So Martin Necas, I think, is the sought after one that I think a lot of teams, you could probably talk about a dozen NHL teams that are looking at him right now. John Gibson, tough cap hit, so I think the Ducks might hold on to him, but I think he's going to get traded over the next calendar year. Patrik Laine, he wants a change of scenery. He went through a lot of things behind the scenes. I do think a low-key market could make sense. Again, you look at Trevor Zegras, for example. I don't know. When the Ducks released their new jersey, Zegras was all over the place, but a Zegras Laine blockbuster kind of makes sense. Like there's some merit there to have that conversation. 2 guys that were top 10 draft picks that have been highly talked about. There could be, I'm not saying that's going to be a 1-for-1 deal, but that would be another scenario where I could see it. And then Nikolaj Ehlers, I think so many teams are going to be in on Ehlers. One team that would really interest me is the New York Islanders. Again, I think for obvious reasons, the Hurricanes make sense with Necas and all of that's going on with Carolina losing Jake Gensel, losing Teravainen. Ehlers makes a lot of sense for Carolina. But on top of that, I do think the Islanders, if they can clear the Jean-Gabriel Pageau contract, that's $5 million. That gives the money right there for Nikolaj Ehlers to jump into the top 6, play with guys like Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal, be on that top power play. All of a sudden, the Islanders have a much better power play with the likes of Horvat, Barzal, Ehlers, and if you want to put Lee or Nelson on that one with Dobson at the point, you're laughing. And again, Toronto's going to make another trade or 2. You just know it's coming. The Leafs got to move things around, and Nick Robertson's not happy. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching this stream. I think there's a lot more movement to happen in this offseason, but I do think we can all reflect as hockey fans and people that follow the NHL that day 1 of free agency was so crazy that it kind of left a lot like off the board. There's not much left on the board in terms of impact players, in terms of top 6 forwards, in terms of top pair defensemen, in terms of top goalies. There's just none of that left available. But in terms of guys that can win you Stanley Cups or contribute to winning Stanley Cups, there's still some of those guys available, whether it's rugged defensemen or middle six forwards that can score 15 to 20 goals in a regular season, 5 goals in a playoff run. There's those guys available still.